in torrents, soaking Demi to the skin. She walked through the flooded fields, her feet sinking into the mud with each step. The weight of her baby Aisha strapped to her side and the heavy load of fresh farm products on her head seemed unbearable. Her swollen belly, heavy with her unborn child, added to her agony. Demi's heart pounded with a mix of desperation and determination. She couldn't afford to stop. The rain was washing away months of hard work, but she had to save what she could. Aisha's tiny cries pierced through the storm, reminding her of why she had to keep going. Her clothes clung to her body, her hair plastered to her face as she pushed forward. Every step was a battle against the elements, but she refused to give up. She had to get home. She had to protect her children. As she reached the edge of the field, Demi stumbled, almost falling under the weight she carried. But she caught herself, her determination stronger than the storm. She could see her small house in the distance, a flicker of hope in the relentless rain. Demi finally reached her house, drenched and shivering. She pushed the door open and stepped inside, only to be met with a sight that froze her in one place. There on the bed lay her husband, Tony, with another woman. Tony looked up, startled. The woman beside him smirked, her eyes full of disdain. "Tony!" Demi screamed, her voice cracking with pain and fury. "How could you do this to me? After everything I've done for you, after everything we've been together." Tony shrugged, not bothering to hide his indifference. "You are always working, Demi, always in the field. I need someone who is here for me." Demi's hand trembled, but she held Aisha close, finding strength in her daughter's innocent eyes. "No more, Tony. I'm done. You've taken everything from me, but you won't take my dignity. I'm leaving." Tony laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the small house. "And where will you go? You have nothing, nothing, Demi." Demi straightened her back, feeling a surge of determination. "I have my pride, I have my daughter, and I will find a way." With that, she turned and walked out into the rain, the storm's fury matching her own. She had nothing but the clothes on her back and her children in her arms, but she had to make a decision. She would no longer be a victim. She would find a way to survive. Demi turned back in pains. She walked for hours, the rain pounding against her like a relentless drumbeat. She had no destination in mind, just a fierce determination to escape the betrayal. She was determined to get away. After all, she was gaining absolutely nothing from Tony except torture and suffering. Aisha cried in her arms, sensing her mother's distress. Demi's heart ached, but she pressed on, fueled by anger and hurt. As the storm raged on, Demi stumbled upon a small shelter. She collapsed inside, exhausted. Aisha's cries subsided as Demi rocked her gently. The unborn baby kicked inside her, a reminder of the life growing within, a reminder of another person she has to fight for. Days passed, and Demi struggled to find work. No one wanted to hire a pregnant woman with a child. She begged for scraps, her pride wounded but her spirit unbroken. Demi's water broke on a cold, rainy night. She gave birth to Janet in a small clinic with no one by her side. The pain was excruciating, but Demi refused to cry out. She bit her lips, focusing on her daughters. As she held Janet in her arms, Demi felt a surge of strength. She knew she would face struggles, but she was ready. Tony appeared at the clinic, tears in his eyes. "I can't believe this. Another baby girl. What's with you and giving me daughters? I want a son. I've told you this a million times. What kind of man are you? What is wrong with you?" Demi looked at him, her eyes cold and hard. She had expected this reaction from Tony, who had always prioritized his own desires over her well-being. "And who told you I need you in their lives?" she asked, her voice firm. "I have my daughters, and they are all I need. We don't need you, Tony." Tony's face crumbled, his expression a mix of shock, anger, and sadness. But Demi turned away, her eyes hardened against him. She knew she deserved better than a man who rejected their children simply because of their gender, and a man who was also cheating on her. She and her daughters would be just fine without him. As the door closed, Demi smiled, her eyes shining with tears. She's done it. She's risen from the ashes, a phoenix born of fire and determination. Aisha hugged her tight, their laughter and smiles, Demi's greatest reward. She knew she would face challenges, but she was ready, for she was Demi, a warrior, a mother, and a survivor. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Demi, ignoring Tony, juggled multiple jobs, working tirelessly to provide for her daughters. She faced discrimination and hardship, but she never wavered. Her determination grew stronger with each passing day. Aisha and Janet grew up watching their mother work tirelessly. They saw her strength and resilience, and it inspired them. Demi made sure they went to school, even when it meant sacrificing her own needs. She wanted them to have a better future, free from the struggle she had faced. One day, Demi had an idea. She noticed that the fruits her neighbor, Mama Tola, sold were always fresh and delicious. She decided to start her own small business, selling fruits and vegetables. She saved every penny she could and eventually rented a small store at the market. Her business started slow, but went spread about the quality of her produce. Customers appreciated her friendly demeanor and dedication. Over time, her business flourished. She expanded her stall, adding more variety and even hiring a few helpers. Tony's life, on the other hand, took a turn for the worst. He had lost his job and struggled to find steady work. The women he had been with left him, and he found himself alone and regretful. He realized too late the value of what he had lost. Desperate, Tony tried to win Demi back. He showed up at her store one day, looking disheveled and defeated. "Demi, I'm so sorry," he pleaded. "I made a mistake. Please take me back." Demi looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Tony, I have forgiven you, but I have moved on. I don't need you anymore. My daughters and I are happy without you." Tony's face fell, but Demi stood firm. She knew that she had built a new life for herself and her daughters, one that didn't include him. She turned away, her heart light with knowledge that she had overcome her struggles. Years passed, and Demi's business continued to grow. She became a respected entrepreneur in her community. People admired her strength and resilience, and she became a role model for other women facing similar struggle. Aisha and Janet grew into intelligent, confident young women. They excelled in school, inspired by their mother's determination. Demi was proud of them, and she knew that all her hard work had paid off. One day, Demi received an invitation to speak at a women's empowerment event. She shared her story, recounting her journey from a struggling single mother to a successful businesswoman. Her words resonated with the audience, and she received a standing ovation. After the event, Tony approached her, tears in his eyes. "Demi, I'm so sorry for everything," he said. "I see now how strong you are, and I regret everything I've done." Demi looked at him, her heart filled with compassion. "Tony, I have moved on. I have forgiven you for the sake of our daughters, but I have built a life without you, and I'm happy. I hope you find peace and happiness too." Tony nodded, understanding. He walked away, leaving Demi with a sense of closure. She had faced her struggle, overcome them, and emerged victoriously. Demi continued to grow her business, expanding into new markets and helping other women start their own businesses. She became a mentor and a leader in her community, always advocating for women's rights and empowerment. Aisha and Janet went on to college, pursuing their dreams with the same determination their mother had shown. They knew that they could achieve anything they set their minds to, thanks to the example Demi had set for them. One day, an unexpected visitor arrived at Demi's doorstep. It was Linda, the woman Tony had left her for. She looked worn out and desperate, carrying a young boy by her side. "Demi, I need your help," Linda pleaded, her voice shaking. "This is Tony's son, Femi. I can't take care of him anymore. Tony abandoned us and I've lost everything. Please, take him in." Demi's heart ached as she looked at the boy. He was around 10 years old, with Tony's eyes and a defiant look in his face. Despite everything, Demi couldn't turn them away. She took Femi in, determined to give him the love and stability he needed. Raising Femi was no easy task. He was rebellious and resentful, often lashing out in anger. He missed his father, who had vanished after his life took a downward spiral. Tony had sold all his properties in a desperate attempt to pay off debts, and his health had deteriorated rapidly. He now lived in a small run-down apartment, suffering from high blood pressure and deep regret. Despite Femi's difficult behavior, Demi treated him with kindness and patience. She understood his pain and did her best to provide a nurturing environment. Aisha and Janet welcomed their half-brother, trying to include him in their activities and help him adjust. Tony's life was a shadow of what it once was. He struggled to make ends meet, and his health continued to decline. He often thought about Demi and the daughters he had rejected. The news of their success reached him through the grapevine, and each accomplishment they achieved felt like a dagger to his heart. One rainy evening, Tony mustered the courage to visit Demi. He arrived at her home, soaked and trembling, his eyes filled with remorse. "Demi, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need to see my children, my daughters," he begged, his voice breaking. "I can't undo the past, but I want to make things right with my daughters." Demi looked at him, her eyes softening. "Tony, you have caused us all so much pain, but my daughters need their fathers. You can see them, but you must earn their trust and our forgiveness." Tony began to visit regularly, slowly rebuilding his relationship with his daughters and Femi. It wasn't easy. They harbored deep resentment towards their father, but over time, Tony's genuine efforts and sincerity began to break through them. Meanwhile, Aisha and Janet continued to excel. Aisha graduated top of her class and received a scholarship to study abroad. Janet followed in her mother's footsteps, starting her own small business. Their success filled Demi's heart with pride and reinforced the lessons of resilience and perseverance she had instilled in them. Tony's health continued to be a concern, but he found solace in a reconnection with his children. He realized that gender didn't determine a child's worth or potential. It was the love, guidance, and opportunities provided to them that truly mattered. Femi, once troubled and rebellious, began to thrive under the combined support of Demi, Tony, and his sisters. He excelled in school and sports, finding his place in the family. One evening, as they gathered for a family dinner, Tony looked around the table, his heart full of gratitude and humility. He saw the strength in Demi's eyes, the intelligence in Aisha's smile, and determination in Janet's gaze, and the potential in Femi's youthful energy. "Demi, I can never fully make up for the past, but I want you to know that I'm proud of our children and the family you've built," Tony said, his voice choked with emotion. Demi smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "We all have come a long way, Tony. It's not about where we started, but how far we've come and the journey we've taken to get there." As the family shared a meal, they knew that their story was one of redemption, resilience, and the unbreakable bonds of family. Tony's regret had taught him that love and dedication were the true measure of a parent's worth, and he vowed to never forget that lesson. Years passed and Demi's life was full of love and laughter. Her daughters were now successful women and Femi had grown into a responsible young man. One sunny afternoon, as Demi was preparing dinner, there was a knock on the door. She opened it to find Linda standing there, looking tired but determined. "Demi, I came to apologize," Linda said, her voice trembling. "I was wrong to come between you and Tony. I hope you can forgive me." Demi felt a wave of mixed emotions, but nodded. "Linda, it's all in the past now. What matters is the future and how we choose to live it." With Linda's apology, Demi felt a sense of closure. She invited Linda to join them for dinner, and as they sat around the table, they talked about the past, the present, and the future. The atmosphere was filled with hope and understanding. Tony, now a changed man, watched his family interact. He saw how far they had all come and felt a deep sense of gratitude. He had learned that love and support were far more important than any material possession or societal expectation. One day, as they were all gathered together, Tony stood up to make an announcement. "I've decided to start a foundation to support single mothers and their children and those who have only daughters. It will be named after Demi to honor her strength and resilience." Demi's eyes filled with tears as she hugged Tony. "Thank you, Tony. This means so much to me." The foundation was a huge success. It provided support, education, and resources to single mothers, helping them build better futures for themselves and their children. Demi was actively involved, sharing her story and inspiring others. Tony worked tirelessly for the foundation, dedicating himself to the cause. He found a new purpose in life, and it brought him immense joy to see the positive impact they were making. Through the foundation, Tony met many women and children who had faced similar struggle. He realized that his desire for a son had been misguided and that true strength came from love and unity, not gender. Tony realized that his daughters had not only carried on his legacy, but had also created one of their own, a legacy of empowerment, equality, and hope for the future. And with that understanding, he found peace, knowing that the future was bright and full of promise. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to share this story with your family and your friends who might love it. Till I see you again in my next story. Goodbye.